Oh my god.
Well, you know, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I was up till like 3, getting home from work.
Oh, okay.
But I like to bring this Monster Energy drink, and it's actually iced coffee.
We're not getting sponsored.
This is the only coffee that I ever drink is Monster Iced Coffee.
I wish we got paid for this.
Yeah, we're not sponsored.
Get paid.
Not sponsored at all by Monster. But I hate coffee, but like I like it in this form. I like the iced vanilla type. It's drinkable, and you know, it doesn't taste bad, and it's caffeine, so it does what it does. So.
Well, with that, let's dive in. Let's dive into some of our topics.
Let's get to yours first.
Okay. Oh, you got some topics too?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Well,
just kidding. I got one.
Okay, good. So today, actually, I just came from a shoot with a group I'm with called Woke Films. They were doing a music video, and it kind of inspired some topics I want to talk about. Some of this particular topic has been probably went over 1,000 times, but I thought maybe we can go over it. It's using run and gun. A lot of filmmakers who start out aren't going to have the fancy sets. They're not going to have the $1,000 in gear. They're not going to have all the lenses. They're not going to have a studio.
Some of them will try.
They will try. But for the average person who wants to create their own films, videos, or create contents of stories, they'll most likely start through their cell phone or through some type of video camera or a camera that can take video. Mm-hmm. And so I want to kind of talk about what are some of the basics of run and gun, and what are some basic things you need.
Did you guys do run and gun style for the
music video? A little bit. So
some of it run and gun, some of it was.
What do you consider? What do you define as run and gun?
Well, I like to define it as, first of all, being on location, like being outside, like using streets, woods, whatever you have outside. Mm-hmm. I like to define it as you going with a handheld versus a tripod. Mm-hmm. Natural light versus, studio setup lighting. Mm-hmm. So, it favors mobility. It favors just improvising with what you have. Mm-hmm. You can get a lot done quickly if you're good at running gun.
So the first part was like that.
And without permission. Without waiting for permits. So the first part was like that. How was the second part?
The second part was actually we went to one of the friends' houses and was inside their kitchen. There was two lights they used. It wasn't $1,000 lights. Actually, the lights only cost $160 each. Mm-hmm.
What kind of lighting? What were they? Like LED panels?
Yeah, I think it was LED panels. A little bit larger. It looked like the back had space for those big Sony batteries that you would use.
Gotcha.
And we used a red gel and an orange gel to create the scene. It was more of like a darker music video.
Okay.
Inside the house, of course, we blocked all the natural light, and we just used 2 lights. One I think was a little bit a smaller construction light, but the construction lights that are really bright. Mm-hmm. Put an orange,
like the work lights.
Yeah, work lights. Yeah,
the hot ones, the ones that get hot.
I don't think it got hot.
Were these LED work lights?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because we put gel over it, so I don't think it was too hot. Because it would have melted, I'm assuming.
No. Some gels are designed to be to withstand some heat, but I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we used only 2 lights, and then there was 2 camera, one for the main shot and the other one for the B-roll.
Okay.
Yeah, I was one of the, you could say, actors standing in the back. I was wearing a white mask.
Okay. So you acted the whole way through? Did you do any behind-the-camera work?
Not really. I helped kind of set up the lights. Okay. What you're talking about. Set up the lights a little bit. The gels. It's mostly what I assisted with. The main guy took care of the camera work.
Did you guys finish it?
It's going to be finished today. They're still recording.
Oh, okay.
Today. After I'm done with this, I'm going to head over there and help them
finish up.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So pretty much like a shoot it all in one day?
Yeah, essentially.
Were there any other days that you guys are going to shoot?
I can ask him.
Oh, okay.
I think, I can ask him. Why are you interested?
I got about enough as I can handle right now.
You see, you're asking probing questions. Usually in sales, when you you're hearing probing questions, that means the customer's ready to buy.
No, I wouldn't consider these probing questions because they're pretty yes and no.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Probing question would be like, so how'd you feel about being on set as an actor?
Well, TJ, it felt amazing. I think you should kind of jump in so you can feel the feeling too.
Yeah, I love running gun. I doing more the, all day, spend it in a couple rooms, kind of traditional, conventional way. Using lighting, artificial lighting instead of natural lighting. I don't really like to do that anymore. Never really liked to do it. I only did it as part of other people's stuff, but I never want to do it again, really, unless there's a lot of money involved. I can be bought. But yeah, man, I love a running gun. And what was your original question? Make sure I'm answering it.
So I guess what are the basics of running gun? I'm gonna say, even though I think one of the main basics is going to be probably going to be the number one, the story. Number two is going to be, of course, the lighting that you're using. Well, actually, I think it should be the sound, and then maybe the third is the lighting. And then last would be the gear, because what you can see, I see plenty of examples, for instance, on social media, where someone may have maybe the video quality is really crappy, but it tells the story, whatever it's happening. You can obviously hear what's happening, and a lot of those videos go viral, depending on what it is. So I guess that's from a social media standpoint. But from, like, for instance, if you're trying to create something with a plan, that's kind of what I want to go into, because it's something I'm interested in learning. I think I have all the stuff I need. I just need to figure out.
Well, the basics of running gun is, first you understand you have a plan if it's running gun. Just like if it's not running gun, you have a plan, because you want to be efficient no matter what way you're doing it. It's just running gun is just a different way of getting pretty much the results that you would get if you weren't doing running gun, which is you want to film something. So, first of all, of course, you got to know your story. I would hope that you've gone over it, days and days in advance with everyone who's involved, the actors, the camera people, and all that stuff. Everyone understand what it is that, everyone's there to create. And so everyone can have, and it's good to do this, a good time in advance, so everyone, if anyone has ideas, they'll have time to, develop those ideas, bring them forward, and you can make adjustments before you actually go through with executing your plan. On the day of shooting, I would have gone to wherever it is you're going to shoot. If you're going to be shooting outside, I would have already gone there and just kind of scouted out the location, make sure it's safe to shoot in, see if you need any permission. If you do need permission, see how far you can go if you're going to try go without.
Let's delve. I think we should delve a little bit more into that for people who don't understand. The location. I know with anything, location is the most important part of setting up a film, because it also you can set up the feel there, and you're also mentioning it being safe. Obviously, if you have crew there, you need to make sure that they're in a safe environment so they can get back home. But I want to hear from your experience. What do you mean by safe? And also regarding permits and other things, because someone who might be listening to this podcast, watching video, may not understand the laws regarding requiring a permit to shoot in certain areas even your city. So you can just kind of delve a little bit into that.
Well, on the point of legality, you want to know if the property that you're shooting on, for example, is private property or if it's public property. If it's public property, you're subject to whatever the regulations for filming on public property are in your city. There could be city ordinances. There could just be county laws applicable. There could just be state laws. There might be federal laws, depending on the property. But you want to check and see what would apply to you, just to know what your exposure would be if something, say, were to go wrong, or police were to pull up and harass you or whatever. So know what you're dealing with. A lot of times I've worked on sets that had permits, but I personally have never asked for a permit to shoot anywhere. And I've been many places. I've shot at a park before. I've shot an abandoned warehouse. I've shot many different places. And it can be fun. But this is part of the importance of planning, too. So, like, a place, like, say you know you can't get a permit. Maybe because the state you're in, they cost too much. And you don't have enough money, time, et cetera, whatever. And you decide, well, you're just going to go for it. You're going to organize a shoot. You're going to spend the least amount of time there as possible. Try to get it done. That's your goal. And so you try to do it without getting caught, basically, because you know you're breaking the law. You're breaking the law if you shoot on private property and you don't have that property owner's permission. It's called trespassing.
What could possibly happen if you get caught? Are you familiar with anyone that you know of or some experiences? Of course,
well, the worst that's ever happened to me or any crew that I work with is, we were asked to leave.
Okay.
Maybe the property owner might have approached and just said, "What are you doing here? You don't have permission to film here. Please leave." Or police say, "Are you guys property owners? All right, you're going to have to take your stuff and go elsewhere." They don't really want to spend time, sorting out, who are these 15 different people. They're probably just going to assume, oh, this is some kid shooting some music video or YouTube thing or whatever. A lot of times you don't really have to worry about being arrested unless you're a dick and you're like an asshole to the cop who shows up or whatever, and they just decide, okay, we're just going to go ahead and play this thing out. We're going to process everybody. So, never be a dick. But it's very important to go to that place and see what, where you want to shoot, what part of it you want to shoot at, what's the best places, what time of day it is that you're going to be shooting. I like to go at the time where we're going to be shooting, but also if, like, say something happens and you have to shoot later than you thought or earlier than you thought, I like to go and see what the sun is doing at any particular time where we might be shooting. So tracking the sunlight, marking down, like I would have a map and I would mark down what I would call hot spots where, like, if there's incident or direct sunlight, it would blow out if you're shooting the camera this way, for example. So we would know where those are. Aside from that, the safety issue is I got shot in a kind of warehouse where that had 2 stories, and it's old. It's not maintained. You don't know if it's up to code. Therefore, you need to make sure every place you're going to be stepping isn't going to give way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the other thing is there's no power in those situations a lot of times. So you need to make sure you have, proper lighting. It's easy. It was easy for the place where I shot for someone to, like, get their foot caught in, like, a plank or something like that.
Oh, jeez.
And maybe twist their ankle or fall down. Things can go wrong. You want to have a sense of what could go wrong, what the consequences could be, and how to mitigate those as best as possible. So that's safety. That actually is safety and security. Aside from that, who would have access to the location other than you, your crew, and whoever. So, like, if you have a bigger crew, it's a little bit more, you can feel a little bit safer. If like somebody were to try to rob you, they're less likely to try and rob a big group of people versus, like, if it's just you and a friend. You know what I mean? Just proximity to how far you are away from, like, a hospital, how far you are away from, like, police response if you need it. So you got to take all these things into consideration for safety purposes. And that's, like, a big thing for me is I've never wanted to be a part of anything that went so wrong that you needed police or you needed a hospital and it wasn't available to you. So definitely those are some things you do in advance, and those are just the things that you have to do. Apart from that, just like what I was saying about, like, just making sure you know where the sun's going to be, because when you're running gun, you're kind of at the mercy of your natural lighting.
Right.
So figure out what your natural lighting is going to look like. If you like what it looks like, I would go to scout locations, take lots of pictures, lots of angles. So I could just sit down with whoever else I might be shooting with and just be like, hey, this is what this angle looks like. This is what this looks like. And then we, create a shot list based on that. But those would be, like, your preliminary location considerations. And there's lots more once you actually are there with people, and then the complications start. Some people are late, some people are not there. Do you start shooting without some people? Do you wait for them? And then you start to play this game where you try to get your thing done. So it's fun.
Yeah. It sounds very complex. And I think the most complex thing of it all is you're dealing with two variables that can change at any time, and that's the people and the weather conditions, especially here in Florida, where a lot of people who are not from here, they call it the Sunshine State, but they don't realize it's also the sunshine, rain, and sometimes storm state.
Yeah, it's a lot of we have weather just like any other state. Yeah, but I guess we just get more sunlight than a lot of places.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's like all day the same weather.
Right. It can change dramatically. And if you're trying to get consistent lighting, that could make it a bit of a problem, which is...
Well, if you're outside, run and gun is usually the best way to go, because you can't control the weather like you can inside, and control natural lighting like you can inside. So you want to do run and gun because usually you're trying to do as much as you can as fast as you can. So within the sunlight being exactly where it is, within, if you have permission or not to be on your location, you usually don't want to be there longer than what you plan, because you can't guarantee that you will have any longer than what you plan, because that's what you told the property owner if you have permission. Or if you didn't have permission, you usually don't want to push your luck. If you got 4 good hours of shooting done and you only needed 3, why try to stay there for 7, But yeah, that's another situation where run and gun makes a lot of sense, is when you're dealing with weather. So
what about gear? As in, what are some things that you need? I was looking at an article by F-Stoppers. They have a couple of things here for run and gun. Number one, they put an L bracket. They have an LCDVF. It's basically kind of like for those who don't know what that is, it's kind of like the eyepiece you can attach to the LCD screen.
Right, the viewfinder.
Yeah, the viewfinder.
The L bracket would be like on a DSLR.
This right here, actually.
So you have one. Okay.
Yeah, it's right here. Actually, I got to take all the stuff off, but this is actually very, very useful.
Yeah, I've been using L brackets as kind of like handheld things. I just take the screw out, reverse it, and I put it on my camera like this. I've been using it like that for years. I love it.
Wow, I never thought about doing that.
How it's supposed to work, though, is it goes under,
right?
Screw it in, and it gives you an extra place to put maybe a flash, a light, or a mic, where it normally would just go right here.
Right.
You just have one. And you could do 2. You could have one L bracket that's actually a U bracket where it has one side and another side, or you can just stack one against the other, because it has the bottom of the screw-in thing has, you can screw another thing in the bottom there. But yeah, those are good, especially if you have DSLRs. You don't want to go bare hands with a DSLR. When it comes to handheld, there are different stages or levels. The most difficult is the bare hands, is when you just have your naked hands on the camera and you're just relying on your arms, your hands, your body control to stabilize it. Camera's always going to be more shaky than what you feel like it is, or what you're looking at in the LCD. So I usually don't like to go to either extreme. So the extremes you're talking about is mobility and low profile versus stability and having more of a visible presence. If you're outside and maybe you're just trying to get a quick shot somewhere public, bare hands is the way to go with being fast and just being low profile, because these look like just photography cameras. Now towards being more stable is you would have a handheld rig, something like what you have, a gimbal, or if you make one out of something like I did. Moving towards more stabilities, you might have a monopod. It's a good little...
That's actually one of the things they mentioned. This is number 3 on the list, is monopod.
Monopod makes a lot of sense.
Why would that? Just clarify, because a lot of people are familiar with the tripod, the tripod that most people have to take pictures and videos. What makes the monopod more efficient in this run and gun situation?
So you know how a tripod has 3 legs? A monopod has 1 leg. Right? So
how
you
does
can't
that help?
Well, it helps you because so the problem with a tripod is it's stable, which is good, but it stabilizes with 3 legs, and some tripods are bigger than others, and they can be cumbersome to move around. So they give you stability at the sacrifice of being mobile, right? But if you want to move faster and still be stable, then a monopod is a good compromise between the handheld and the tripod. You have a single leg. Some monopods have a three thing foot at the bottom, so it kind of helps stabilize it even more. So you get the stability, partial stability of a tripod, without having the other 2 legs that make it heavier and harder to move around. You're going to move a lot faster with a monopod than a tripod, because you have to make adjustments when you're in the field. You got to adjust the tilt, the pan, or whatever for the camera. So you can do that quickly with a monopod, but a tripod would be more consistent with whatever your adjustment would be, and it would also be more stable, just not easy to move. So I love the tripod or the monopod. I've used a monopod more than a tripod or a handheld.
I agree. I shoot a lot of events, and the monopod is by far the easiest way to take pictures or videos of, say, of things that are in constant motion. When I first started, I did use a tripod, and I ended up just closing on the legs and tightening the screw and trying to use it that way. But once I found out what a monopod was and what it does, I actually fell in love with it, because it's like essentially like a cane where it's easily transportable. You just kind of pick it up. With a tripod, you have to put all the legs together. You have to carry it. You have to pull the legs out. It's kind of clumsy to hold around. The monopod's weight is centered. The tripod's weight, which makes sense, its weight is distributed through each leg. So if you think about transportation and ease of use, the monopod wins specifically for situations where you're constantly moving around. And also I think it also creates a more, if you're looking for more of a natural, little bit, like for instance, if you want a little bit of movement in your film or video, you can create that through a monopod without being completely still. You can do it with, for instance, like with a ballpoint tripod, but if you're constantly moving from location to location, I think that can work out.
Yeah, at the same time, though, you're more likely to drop your camera on a monopod than a tripod.
That is true.
More likely. So the thing is, I don't know about a list of things you need just for run and gun. What I would say is you need to understand what all you're going to be doing. And for me and people I've worked with, we've kind of had like a system where we understood, okay, well, here's the size of our kits based on where we're going to be, how long we're going to be there, what we're going to be doing, what the conditions are. We'd have like a small size kit, which means like you basically have your camera and maybe like a small bag for like lenses or batteries or whatever, and it's always attached to you. You can have a medium-sized kit, which is going to be like allow you to have a lot more than just your camera. You can have a bunch of lenses. You can attach a tripod. You can put some other stuff, maybe your laptop in that. That would be like a backpack. So you have your medium kit, but this is also something that if you need to always have it on you, it's light enough for you to always have it on you. Then you have your large size kits. So this would be places where you know you're going to be there for a while, or you know you're going to need a lot of stuff. Maybe you're doing more than one roll, you have audio gear, and you have the camera gear. A large kit will allow you to store all that stuff, but it's not light enough for you to carry with you. So you're going to be in a location that, like, you have a staging area where you can put all your gear, and you don't have to worry about somebody running up, walking off with it. So just depending on the conditions, you either are going to be with one of those categories is what we would use, and within that, you may have a L bracket on you, you may not. So I think the more important thing to figure out is what kind of running gun you're going to be doing. Like, what are you going to be doing? Like, where are you going to be doing it? How far away? How long do you have? Who's going to be with you? You need to figure out all all the details, and then within that decide, okay, this would be the perfect package for me to bring with me. For us, we had that shit worked down to a science. But yeah, that makes more sense than if I gave you a list of anything I would take on a run and gun. I would take almost anything with me on a run and gun. I would bring a green screen on a run and gun if I had time and a need for it and you know the ability to use it. You could bring any film equipment with you on a run and gun.
But what about capturing sound? And that's some of the most important things of whether you're trying to capture an event, maybe you're shooting a parade, to if you're shooting a simple, like for instance, a film. I know a lot of issues can happen with sound if it's not done properly, and if you don't have sound, it's very very difficult to have a nice video or film to kind of show the public or your audience. So what would you consider doing for that? I know there might be differences depending on what you're looking for. So let me clarify then. Since I mostly do events and you mostly do films, what would you say? Maybe I can talk more about events and you can talk more about on the film aspect. So that way we can get specific
is it
examples.
Any different when you say just focusing on sound?
Yeah, so like for instance, like when you record, because when you're recording, right? So you have the video. Say for instance, you're recording a film, right? You have the.
No, I mean, is that your question?
What
is it any different with sound versus just camera gear and stuff in a run and gun situation?
Yes.
No, it's not different. No, you're still going to take all the considerations into play, and I was actually including sound in those considerations. Yeah, so it's like your sound's going to have. I could have just a Tascam recorder with me or a Zoom H recorder, or I might decide that I need a boom stick and I need a shotgun mic, or I might need a certain type of mic, condenser, dynamic even. It depends on where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing to decide exactly what you need. I think the more important consideration is how much of what you need do you need.
For someone starting out then, say they're doing a short film on them walking their dog.
I would probably favor towards going lighter and less.
Okay.
But that depends on what you're doing. If it's somebody
just walking it down the beach. Say if I have a goal, I'm walking my dog down the beach. I do it every weekend. I like to capture it and show my family and friends. Maybe post it on social media. But I like doing a more organized format instead of just whipping up my phone and taking a video. What would be say if you were to do that? What's something you would do? What package would you set up, and how would you draft that up? What would be your idea?
So to figure out what I need is I got to figure out what I want. So how good do I want the sound to be? Do I want the sound of his paws hitting?
You want the sound? You want the sound? Okay, I'll give you. We'll do a little game. All right.
Okay.
So for the sound, you want to focus on mostly the dog, the beach and the people walking, all the background noise. It can be there, but it's not the main focal point. The main focal point is the dog's footprints, him sniffing. If he's licking some stuff, he's licking some stuff. If he's going through the water, you can hear his paw prints through the water. Maybe you go glance back and you hear the birds, but it's mostly the dog. And like for instance, like the chain, how the chain makes I think it's the crinkling noise, the tinkling noise.
Okay. You've done this before?
I've never done this before.
Oh, okay.
I just know what I walk a dog a lot, so I understand what sounds are involved.
Okay. Yeah. Well, rarely does a sound person need more than a medium kit. So I wouldn't do any more than that. So what that would entail is you're always going to have your microphone. And for this situation, I think a shotgun mic makes sense. Boom pole as well, because you might want some wide shots, but you still might want some audio or scratch audio of what you're seeing exactly. And for me, I can actually wear the boom. I have like a
backpack.
I use actually like the fishing rod bags.
Yes.
So I have one that's like basically I use that for my boom pole.
Oh, that's actually nifty.
So you can put your boom pole in there. You can put your mic in there. It has pockets on the sides. So you can put like extra XLR cords or whatever. I can fit my recorder, my small recorder in there too. So Other than your recorder, your boom pole, some batteries, you're gonna need. Depending on your equipment, you may want a preamp. You may need a preamp. Probably not if you have good enough equipment. And what that means is, so you've got your recorder, and sometimes you have a separate device, which is a preamp, which basically your mic goes into your preamp first so that the signal gets boosted as clean as you can, and then it goes into your recorder.
Okay.
So if you have a bad recorder, but it has bad preamp, like if you have a bad recorder, it's because usually the preamps suck. And so when you add gain to the sound, it does it, and it adds noise at the same time where it's making it louder. A good preamp will boost the sound without adding too much noise to it. It'll boost it, but the sound stays clean. So sometimes that's what you want, but I have a recorder that has good preamps in it, so I rarely need to do that. So I mean, I'm looking. So as a sound guy, I usually can always carry everything I bring with me on my back, or on me, and rarely do you need a large kit. A large kit would be more like if you're in the same place for like 9 hours or something like that. So you might need to bring an extra battery. You might need to bring your laptop to go over sound, mess with it a little bit, clean it up. You might want to bring like a separate little station, like if you have a 2-person team where you're capturing sound and that person is monitoring the sound.
What happens if you're by yourself?
Definitely don't bring a large kit. If you're outside, don't bring a large kit. Bring it. Medium should probably even be too big. So I would probably even go small. I would just probably bring just the mic, the boom pole, XLR cable, and recorder.
Okay.
And I'm good to go.
Okay. So let me go a little bit deeper then.
Okay.
So we got the gear. You know exactly what we want to do. Let's add a little bit of story into it, run and gun, because I don't think we've really gone into that, developing story and run and gun. We've got a little bit of lighting and stuff like that, but I'm going to go to this. So say you have a dog, right?
Right.
The dog has been strolling this beach since it was a puppy, but recently your dog had cancer and needed to get surgery. This is the first time your dog is back on the beach, and you will record this moment.
Okay.
How would you develop that? How would you develop that story of the dog getting to the beach after so many weeks of not being there?
Well, the thing is, I wouldn't work with a dog, but you've already laid out the story.
Yes.
The hard thing about animals is you can't let them understand what the story is and what they need to give to it. They're just being themselves, and they're being themselves within whatever context you put them in. So the dog, us knowing that the dog likes to go on the beach, it's the first part of the story. Us knowing that the dog suddenly developed cancer, second part of the story. The dog gets treated, the dog starts to recover, and then this beautiful moment where the dog comes back in contact with its familiar surroundings, where it's back on the beach again. You want to capture that emotion. That's probably the height or climax or most emotional part of the film. The dog's probably going to be really happy and jumping around and frolicking around. That's the best that the dog can do to contribute to the story.
That's all you need.
But you had to set it up.
Right.
You had to understand why that moment was so important in the first place. You had to understand the history behind the dog, how many times the dog goes to the beach, why the dog loves the beach so much, and then what happens when the dog is too sick to actually enjoy the beach, and then the owner, being connected to the dog, seeing the dog so happy, making a recovery. All of those things you have to understand before you start to film it.
Okay.
So when it comes to run and gun, the story comes into play the same way it does in the as you would like a conventional film, where you understand what it is in the beginning when you go into it. Really, the only difference is how much more you are willing to accept and use in addition to what you came up with run and gun, because you might capture some more opportunities on the beach that you didn't foresee. Maybe your location is also being used by, some other kind of animals, and the dog goes up and has an interaction, and that was never in the script, but now you have it on camera. Are you going to use it?
Possibly.
So if it's run and gun, you're more likely to use it. If it's more of a budget, really planned out thing, you might have not used it because you would have blocked off the area or something like that. So with run and gun, in relation to story, the goal is still the same. You're going to try to tell a story, but you're more open to things just kind of happening by chance that you might use with run and gun.
Okay. So we're gonna get back to this.
Okay. Did I give you enough?
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah. You actually gave me an idea to how to videotape my dog's girlfriend going on a walk. He didn't go through surgery or anything like that, but
now, I do think it's important for people to like understand the fundamentals of storytelling.
Oh.
No matter what you do, whether it's conventional or unconventional.
Are you going to share that right now?
I don't think that we have enough time for me to go over the.
Let's go that next time then.
Next time. But it's a good idea to understand what makes a story, what makes a story work, and and that's why it's pretty much the same as like we have the acting class for Tampa Film Network, and one thing people want to know is like, what's the difference? What's the fundamental difference, or what's the importance between scripted acting versus non-scripted, like improv? Mm-hmm. And for me, I tell them, there's no difference between scripted and unscripted acting, because you're a storyteller, and you're doing your part of the storytelling, which is acting. That doesn't change if you're improvising it. You're still a storyteller. You're still trying to tell a story. The only thing that's different is the things that you're willing to accept, the things that you're willing to use to get the story across. It's harder to do improv, but it's still storytelling, whether it's scripted or not, and it's still filmmaking, whether it is run and gun or more conventional approach.
Okay.
So story is the key thing there, and you do need to understand storytelling.
Next podcast, folks.
Next podcast.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. Or you could take my class for $14.99. $19.99 a month. No, Tampa Film Network does not charge for anything. No classes, none of the programs that cost any kind of money at all. And never will.
Okay. So the next thing I want to go over is actually something I realized on the set, and it's something I would like to personally learn, because I actually have no knowledge of this subject as to the running gun, but is using color theory to create emotion in a scene. I know. I think you did a little bit of that in the film helped you work on. Of course, depending on like the golden hour and.
Oh, like you mean Good Friends?
Yeah, Good Friends.
Oh, yeah. It's always weird when you say I helped you.
Oh, Good Friends. Sorry, Good Friends.
Yeah, Good Friends. So, color theory, would that mean like you feel like yellow elicits a certain kind of emotion more than blue? Using certain colors to help you?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, I would say, first of all, your premise should be it enhances the emotion. Color doesn't create emotion at all. So it can enhance the emotion that you've been putting together through storytelling. What creates the emotion is storytelling. It's when the audience sees what we call story values from the writer's room. We call them story values, where so basically there are qualities of human existence, right, that we're experiencing all the time, and we're just experiencing positive and negative parts of these existence. So, like, for example, life. Positive is alive. Negative of life would be dead, right? Those are the two extremes. Now, between those, you can have, like, varying degrees of being alive. You can be alive, but terminally ill. Or you could be not dead, but a vegetable, right? So human beings experience emotions when they see characters that they care about through your design, experiencing the shift between these story values, the ones that are important for the genre that you're in. Okay. Because if you're in a crime genre, story values like justice, story values like righteousness, they take a front seat in front of other story values that your character might be experiencing. They take a front seat the same way that you focus on love in love stories. It's just, this is in that genre. So these are what your characters are most likely experiencing, and they see them switch back and forth. As the story moves, they go more and more and more and more. It builds up more and more, and you see things happen, and that creates emotions. Now, what enhances the emotions is your choice of lighting, your choice of color palette, where you decide to create symbolisms and themes throughout the film. That can enhance your film. It can. Where that can be a hindrance, or how that can go wrong. If you decide you want to use certain colors throughout your entire movie, and you decide to call it symbolism, that can go wrong if it trumps storytelling in any way, shape, or form. Just like directors who value explosions and big action sequences and things, they can that hinders films and storytelling and emotions just as much as color can, because basically instead of doing storytelling, you're relying on things that should not stand out. Like color should never stand out in a way that's like, oh, well, that's a very clever color scheme this person is using, or that's a very clever camera angle that the person is using. They almost shouldn't notice it, really. Like special effects. Special effects are good when you almost don't notice them. They can be very effective as long as you don't know that that's what it is. I don't care that the entire Transformers movie was shot on green screen as long as it looks real. You know what I mean? As long as I'm not paying attention to that. You know what I mean? The same thing, filmmakers on a small scale independently can make the same mistakes that big directors like Michael Bay. I only use that name because it's a name that everyone would recognize, and a lot of people stereotype him as being the explosions director, right? They can make the same mistakes in a short film that these big guys make with the big budgets and everything, by focusing too much on symbolism. If you have to call it symbolism, you probably shouldn't be doing it. It's only there to enhance the emotion. It's only there to add and deepen the meaning of what you're trying to do.
So would you say the foundation is the story, and then everything else is built on top of that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd say that all of it is story. The color is story. The special effects are story. All of it is story. If it is not story, then it shouldn't be in a movie.
Okay.
A huge part of storytelling and filmmaking is deciding how much to include versus exclude, right? You can only control the world so much. If you end up shooting outside, the consideration you have to take into effect is, does that car really belong, in this shot? Should I be shooting down the street? Should those trees exist in the setting that I say that this movie is taking place in? You got to make all these decisions about what you should be including and what you should be excluding. It's the human mind that adds the context, because a filmmaker who has very little money and has limited access to locations can create the feeling like the movie is much bigger than what it is by alluding to more than what they show. They just focus on the things that are important for their story, and they just use these little cues and things to allude to bigger, more fantastic things than they have the budget to do. And then the audience just goes, okay, yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? Without going, well, where's the rest of the building? Or where's the rest of this? They assume that it's there. They never actually even question it if you do it right.
Like the Matrix.
So, yeah, it's storytelling. That's a very important skill. Just knowing what you should include and what you shouldn't include. That's you make that decision with everything, from the chair that you use to the color of the chair that you use to the placement of the chair, whether it's lit, whether it's not lit. All of those things have to be examined if you're going to do your job properly.
So for let's go back to the movie about walking the dog.
Monster, we do accept sponsors.
Oh,
Just kidding. Walking the dog.
Oh, jeez. So
I one thing, I will never ever work with dogs. Ever.
Dogs are amazing.
I love dogs. They're not good for storytelling though.
They're perfect for storytelling. They're a natural
They're
character.
not.
You never have to go through acting lines or anything. They know exactly what to say.
Yeah, but story isn't life. You know what I mean? Story is metaphor for life. It is not life as is. It's more like, this is life, but this is not exactly life. You know what I mean? it's a metaphor for life. It's more of an artistic interpretation of life. That's what filmmaking is. It is not exactly life. If it is life, then you know what? Films would be they would be terrible. They would be a lot more boring. They'd be a lot more realistic. Like one of the knocks on independent film used to be, I think it probably is, that they're too realistic. Like but this is a genre. Like indie films is a genre, and you know what I used to notice about indie films was they would show you a lot more than what bigger Hollywood type films would be. So like let's say your character is going to go to the store, and let's say they're hiding out from the government or whatever. Okay. They're going to go to the store and make contact with one of their people who works at the store. To kind of lets them know every now and then, hey, it's still too hot. You know, stay in hiding. You know, come out later. But they're going to go to the store. In Hollywood, or conventional approach would be, you show them at home contemplating whether or not to go to the store. Right. And they decide, fuck it, I'm not going to the store. It's too risky. 5 seconds later, it shows them at the store, walking in a little bit nervous, looking around, going up to the cash register, who is their friend of 13 years or whatever, and they're basically asking in code, you know, what's the landscape like right now? You know, are they still looking for me? Now, in an indie film, what would happen is they would show that person leaving their house, walking up the sidewalk, looking over their shoulders, being a little paranoid, getting to the store, opening the door, walking in. You hear the ring of the doorbell, walking up to the person behind the counter. And it's less about code and a little more realistic. Hey, what's up? What's going on? You get the same thing, but you have all this stuff in between that kind of gives you the semblance of life. And that in and of itself is not invalid. It's just a different way of storytelling. By showing more of the journey to get to the store, you have more of a realistic kind of feel, you know? But my point is, basically, story is not life, because every movie would be that way. It's more metaphor for life. Some stories do the same thing without actually showing you the difference between the store and the person and the place that they're hiding. They may be hiding at like the attic or something in the store. It really depends on what the film is, what it's trying to be, what it's trying to say. But it's definitely not. It's just not life, you know. No more than a poem is life. Poems are artistic interpretations of life. They can be very lifelike, though.
I'll have to dwell on that. I can come back to you later.
Yeah, and for you actors out there, something else, don't get this confused either. Characters are not human beings. They are works of art. They are the same way story is not life, it's metaphor for life. They're a metaphor for human beings. And that's why you focus on some things about the character when you work on them, and some things you leave out. You focus on the way they talk versus the way they sit. Some characters are more physical. You work on their physical movements versus, you know, how much they know and all the backstory and stuff. So same thing there. Same exact thing. Go ahead.
I'm learning a lot today. Okay. There is one more thing I want to go over with you.
Just one more. We're almost there.
Film. Let me make sure I say this correctly. Okay. Crew morale.
Crew morale.
That is, I didn't realize how important that was until after getting on a couple of sets.
Was that of importance today?
Yes, it actually was. Yes, it's in the beginning when it first started. It was a little. I think it was a little awkward, but then as things started going,
why was it awkward?
Well, because it was me and someone else. We were basically the artist who's doing the music video. Him and the lead guy who started Woke Films know each other since high school. Okay. Me and the guy that are with the individual who started Woke Films did not. So it's that beginning part. You're getting to know people. You have to kind of like get to know them and get comfortable.
And you were getting to know them on set?
Yes.
Okay.
That was probably that. That could have been partially my fault. I listened to the music. I kind of looked at the background before I went to the set. But it's
on the day of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and when I mean awkward, I'm specifically pointing towards kind of like that beginning stage. It's kind of like when you're meeting someone, trying to get to know them, trying to see what's what they're all about, and then later on things start to pick up, and you start to understand kind of like the culture of that film set. 'Cause I think every film crew has a culture. The morale was good. You know, the artists were very enthusiastic. They're into the music video. They're sharing and bouncing off ideas. I know you have more experience than I do. I just wanted to kind of talk about how does crew morale play a part into making the film. Because I guess I can understand if you have high film crew morale, that can definitely help with maybe getting things done a little more efficient and faster, or maybe people more into their roles. Maybe there's less cuts. If there's low morale, there might be a lot of lag, a lot of lollygagging around. I wanted to get your opinion on that, and I'll kind of feedback and kind of go from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, crew morale, as you put it, is extremely important because everyone involved with the project are your partners in creating the project. Whether people would like to acknowledge that by, including them in the creative process or not, that's how it is. If you have a crew with a lot of morale, it usually means they're all usually close to being or are on the same page with what the project is, what the story is, what the intent of the story is. People are excited about making it because, it's being made in a really interesting way. They have an important role in making the film or whatever it is that you're creating. So it is extremely important that everyone who has a hand in creating something give it their all, and that's why morale is important. I have a friend who added me not too long ago to like a group of people to kind of create skits, right? This friend was, let me see, we worked on a film where there were like a couple examples of crew morale not being all great. There were like one or two people in the bunch who were like, they were late, you know what I mean? They were kind of new to the group. They just weren't dialed in the way that everyone who had worked together before was dialed in. We were early. That's on time for us. We were all, asking each other questions from the moment we see each other, an hour or whatever before the shooting starts. Did you come up with any new ideas for how to light the thing differently, or how to set up this prop differently, or things like that? Those people who I would consider as having good morale because they're engaged, like they are invested. They're trying to think of different ways to make it as good as possible before we actually have to shoot. These bad examples were people who were late, people who didn't really have anything to contribute creatively to the project, because I come from a group where you have to contribute creatively in order to really be in it. You can't be someone who has to take orders or stands around and waits for the director to tell you something, because it's from Film Punks. That's where I came from, and there are no directors on any project, so only collaborators. So these people who weren't used to that for this particular project, they just were doing the things that, not only shows they have bad morale, but it affects other people. It kind of makes them like, oh my God, I don't want to work with this person. Or it's like they're not even trying. It's just, and then, they have conversations afterwards about the person. It's just not good for the whole group. But had that happen, we got through with the project because, we always finish projects. But not too long after, one of those two examples added me to a group. And it was kind of like just for creating skits. The person was more interested in filmmaking after doing this. They were kind of new to the process. So I would say they had a good experience overall. Whereas I may not have been happy with their involvement from start to finish, but I did note some good parts from them, and they kind of improved towards the end. But they kind of had a different philosophy for things like what we talked about before, was running gun planning. You know what I mean? They kind of had a preconceived notion of run and gun just being about making everything up on the spot, whereas we were like, no, it's more about, you know, accepting that because of the conditions you're going to be in, shooting downtown, no permit, for example, or whatever, anything can happen, and so you have to be able to still get your job done on the spot, but you don't wing the planning. You know where you're going to be, you know what you're going to shoot, you know which angle, you know the lighting, you know everything as much as you possibly can before you go into that environment. Run and gun is improvising with the situation you're in. It is not improvising with the story you have or anything like that. This person they haven't had enough experience with our group to kind of learn that. And the only reason they were even on this project was because we were shorthanded and we just had to take on some help, last minute kind of situation. But anyways, this person added me to the group, and it's kind of like what I saw I didn't comment or anything, and I didn't leave the group. I started to just take myself out. It's like, I'm so busy with Film Punks and Tampa Film Network and all this other stuff. Do you really think I can take on any more? But it's like I didn't take myself out of the group because I saw they added like 20 other people. One of the other people was the other person who was a bad example for our group. So I wanted to see how it would turn. I wanted to see how they would approach filmmaking themselves, because they were kind of taking on the leadership spot and they were going to do a more conventional approach, but they wanted to be a little more free. You know, they wanted to be a little more traditional run and gun, I guess is how they would look at it. And they want to show, I guess what they want to do is they felt like some things that we could have done better was let it be less constrained, less planning, and just, you know, be more open and things like that. So I just stayed in the group to just see what they post. The kinds of things that they post were, you know, anyone got any ideas? Comment your ideas below. Well, maybe a couple of people out of the 20 will comment an idea. A week later. 2.5 weeks later, you know, anyone got any ideas, you know, and then they had like a poll or whatever, and they created like a couple subjects. It's like, and just the style of it is, I feel like they're going through the process that we had to go through in the beginning of us learning how to be filmmaking. They're figuring out that, and one of the things that they did that we don't do is they take regular people and bring them into filmmaking to just kind of help out, have fun, and get some experience. We don't do that. We'll take new filmmakers, people who have decided they want to do this. Like they're in the beginning process of getting their gear, learning the technology, learning the filmmaking roles and all that stuff. We'll work with those people. I'm not going to take some random person off the street just because I need an extra and try to work with that person, because you cannot have the same expectations of those people. And I feel like looking at the posts, like I see that this person's been trying to gather morale to create projects and stuff. And in the beginning, it was like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is great. But a lot of these people are regular people, right? Maybe a few people have actual experience, like making stuff. So it's like just seeing them try to get those people interested and contribute time and effort into, you know, planning something or a creative process. I feel like it's like a growing pain for them, and they're learning how hard that is and what you should and should not do. Things that we have worked out to a science through that trial and error, they're going through for their first time. And the first lesson that I see that they're learning is there's a difference between regular people and
people interested in film.
Yeah, people interested in film, new people.
What has been your experience if you have two people of equal skills and ability? One is interested in filmmaking and starting, the other person is off the street. What's your experience?
Regular people can't do shit, is my experience. They won't do shit. Like you can set everything up for them, but you shouldn't. You can give them a lot of things and opportunities, but you shouldn't. You got to let people earn their opportunities is the only thing that I learned from working with regular people. They will not earn it. You know, only people who want to do filmmaking and they want to have that struggle and they understand it is a struggle and they understand they got to build their skill and keep up with the technology and put in hours, you know, of consideration and time into trying to do film. and working with people who may not agree with them, and learning that, hey, sometimes you got to, go with this person's idea so that they'll go with your idea. Only those people will actually do anything. So that's one reason I don't work with regular, like, normal people. Like, if you say you want to work with me on something, one of the first things I'm going to do is go to your Facebook page. You either have one or you don't. If you don't have one, I'm not working with you. Who doesn't have Facebook? Who doesn't realize how important that is?
The government's chasing after me.
You're in the United States. The whole place is the government. So, if I go to your Facebook page and it's picture after picture of you, your dog, your family, and all that stuff, I'm not working with you. What? If I go to your Facebook page and you're a sound person and I actually see you posting about, I got this new microphone, going out to the woods to test it out today. Okay, now I'm interested. But if you're a film person with no film content on your Facebook page, you don't identify as one, you say you work at JCPenney's, you know what I mean? If I can't figure out that you're a filmmaker by looking at your Facebook page, I'm not fucking with you. Like, excuse my French. I'm not working with you. I'm not even interested. I'm not even going to tell you why, because I'm not going to tell you how to try to fool me, right? You just cannot do it. You can't do it. That's not to say that there isn't that one person who, after you teach them a few things, after they learn a few things, they don't decide that they want to do film, you know what I mean? But who's got the time to invest in looking for that person?
Not a lot.
Nobody. If you think you do, you're one of the people who's going to try, and you're going to take yourself out of the game trying to bring someone else in. So I don't spend any energy on that, and I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, because people have good intentions. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes, like, we'll get people in class and they have a lot of energy, right? And they say they talk about all the things they want to do, right? And it would be very tempting to, just take on that energy because, this person is energized and they're interested and they want to do this and that, and they talk a good game and stuff like that. So you want, you're what should be happening in a lot of people's heads is like, I should be working with this person, That person doesn't show up next week. You might see him next month. You know what I mean? Maybe they have so much energy, they've got 10 other things that they're trying to do. So they haven't focused in on that one thing. You can't invest in everyone the same way. And so you got to try to be smart about, who you spend your time with and who you have on your crew. And one of the people I would have on my crew are people who show up on time, people who show up consistently, people who ask questions, people who are always trying to contribute stuff, whether you ask them to or not, people who are always trying to be more and more involved in the creative process. People you don't have to tell to do anything. They're doing stuff. The only thing that they want to know is how they can do it better, or what else they can do. Those are people who should be on your crew. Those are people who have good morale. And you know what? When you find one and you find two, those two are so happy that you brought them together, and now it's the three of you. That three will attract four. That four will attract more. And, those people who are clearly not those type of people, you can spot them immediately. Even if they appear to be, because of all the energy some people have and how much they talk about how passionate they are. It's a game of, okay, show me some substance. Because usually, man, the good ones, man, you can tell. You can tell by everything they do, everything they ask you about, everything that they do without telling you. You go to their Facebook page, they say they're a filmmaker, whether they're making money on it or not. They say that's what I want, that's what I am. I think, therefore I am. That's what I want to be. Everything they post is about what they're trying to do. That's the crew you need.
Well, TJ, what about, so say you have the good people.
And I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you answered the question, but what about so you have the people on your team, right? You have the crew ready to go. What about things like food and water? What about the fuel? Because sometimes the sets can last for hours upon hours. Yeah. So you first thing.
What about it?
Well, do you what? I guess what would you suggest in regards to you have these high morale people, right? Like, yeah, we're ready to go. They're interested in filmmaking. They're doing it with or without you, paid or unpaid. and you want to keep these people going, right? You want to have these people focused on the set. Mm-hmm. How do you keep that going? Because sometimes they can last hours. They can last all day.
You don't have any say into what keeps them going. They keep them going. They're going to do it with or without you, like you said. They're going to be there whether you pay them or not. So you don't have to worry about keeping them going. You don't have to worry about feeding them. It's great if you can, but that's not a requirement of someone who's really interested in their project. They understand those things. Like, they understand, like, not everything is going to just be handed to them, because everything hasn't just been handed to them. So it's not something that you really have to take into consideration. With Film Punks, like, we didn't provide any food or anything like that. Cause
that's true. I do remember that.
We ate, but it's like, you know what? Matt cooked something, like, when we were at the clubhouse. Well, you weren't there.
No.
He did it when we came back, and you went home.
I came the second.
Well, he did it after the shoot. He didn't do it before.
Okay, gotcha.
But basically, it's like, all right, well, whose responsibility is it to feed everyone? If everyone is equally involved with the project, everyone has a job. Everyone's important. Whose job is it to feed everyone?
Oh, we could just do a Dutch. Just do a Dutch, and I'll chip in for a pizza.
Well, the way that I would go about it is, you either all chip in.
Yeah, the all chip in method's probably the best way.
Or everyone just kind of just takes care of themselves. Just come fed. Come already eaten.
And I kind of think about it. Yeah, I do remember when I was doing the set photography on Film Punks. I don't remember eating. I think I was so engaged, I just forgot about the eating. I remember when I got home.
Yeah, and we don't have 8 to 10 hour shoots.
No, we'd start at 6. What time would we start at? 6?
The limit was 4.
No, it was 4. So we started at 6. Well, really, we try to start a little bit earlier than that.
Well, we were there earlier. We don't shoot for more than 4 hours, but we were there earlier because of planning.
Right, and we couldn't either way because the sun would set around 6:50ish. Now with the time change, it's going to set at 6. But I remember that.
Yeah, and weren't you asking about something about golden hour earlier? Couldn't remember the question. Or maybe you were just mentioning it.
Yeah, I was mentioning it. Sorry, hold on.
You okay? Oh, I got better weed than what you got.
Oh, good. No weed, just talking and spit going down the wrong pipe.
Just kidding.
Golden hour. The golden hour is when the sun rises, when the sun sets. Is that correct?
An hour before or after?
After.
Or hour before the sun rises or sets.
Yes. So I wanted to know how.
Oh, but sorry, right before you're about to ask a question. Yeah. So to wrap up the question you were asking. Yeah. So if you have anyone on your crew where that's a consideration, that's a serious consideration. Like, if I don't feed this person,
they're gonna leave.
They're gonna leave, or they won't be happy. Mm-hmm. You probably shouldn't have that person on your crew. You should know that before you start shooting. At least a week before you have anything to actually work on with them.
So if you and a group of people are trying to create a film, right? This is something that y'all know. It's going to take a couple hours of production and also editing. Just to wrap up, you want to make sure you have the right people on your team, because not only will that affect the production of the film set, but also can also affect the product as well. As you mentioned, some people that you bring in.
It will definitely affect the film set and the product.
Right.
So the crew people, as long as they should know up front, like, what you can and can't do, right? So just because we work with no director, but if you are a director and you sit down with your crew weeks ahead, they should know, hey, you can either afford to get them, coffee or lunch or whatever, or you can't. And they should be okay with either way, and don't try to do more than really what you should. Like, if everyone is there for the same thing and you're taking the job of the director, that's a big job. Like, we split that up in our system, like the responsibility, but the director has a huge job of keeping the project together. If anything happens to the director, the project is dead. They've got a lot of responsibilities, and everyone should understand, hey, in order to keep this thing going, when I need something, I need something. Let's get it going. That's just kind of how the system is designed to work. But you should never have prima donna crew people at all. People who need anything other than sorry.
You don't cater to my needs.
I didn't mean to.
My needs are important to me.
To you.
To me and everyone else.
To you.
I can feel the needs of me of importance to you.
Yeah, but yeah, just be careful about, doing whatever it takes to please a crew of people, because they better at least be doing that for the project. Whatever it takes for the project, they should be doing that. If you have that level of commitment to them, they should have that level of commitment to the project or more, at least. All right, so sorry, what was your question before I cut you off?
Oh, no, it was just the regarding color theory and running gun. Because I think this might be important. I know the golden hour is extremely important in creating films. Actually, it's beautiful when I'm taking photographs. But I wanted to know why is it important in filmmaking? Just
golden hour?
Yes, because
it's not important.
It's not.
No, when you say it's beautiful, a lot of people like it. A lot of people don't care about it. A lot of people, it doesn't matter. I like shooting at night. I like fluorescent light. I like sodium lights. It doesn't matter unless it matters. It in and of itself doesn't really mean anything until you give it the context to mean something. Until you understand the color temperature that's coming from the sun hitting your location is the right color temperature that you're looking for. It doesn't really matter if you shoot at golden hour. It's a hazard, really, because the light changes so quickly during golden hour. If you don't have basically a 30-minute shooting time, for that time, if you're going to be using that kind of light, then you probably shouldn't be doing anything at golden hour. Why do that? What's the point? Is it important for the story?
Could be.
Could be. It better be.
My dog loves the golden hour. I'm going to go for my next film.
Well, so if it's the dog movie and, it's the shot where the dog is out at golden hour and the time of day that it is and it's one of those types of shots, then it's important.
He loves to have the golden hour as a backlight as I film him in the front.
Yeah, but the complication with golden hour is the limited time and the complication of the light changing.
I remember in Good Friends, near the end of the shoot, that was actually the biggest problem, was the constant change of light. I think everyone had to set because you had to basically.
No, it was a change of weather because the clouds came over and it was dropping water.
Well, I remember that, but then as the day went by and we were at the golden hour, the sun started to drop rapidly. I remember you mentioned about the light changing too quickly.
No, it wasn't that. So basically, the reason we were shooting in an alley is because you can't see incident light.
No, I'm talking about underneath the highway.
Well, the highway was a backup location for the alley.
Right.
That became impossible because we were driven from our first location to a second location which tried to meet all the same needs as the first. Basically, the overpass is just to shield us from seeing the direct sunlight moving as the sun moved.
Right.
So some things being lit versus other things being lit within the span of 15 minutes, right? So that's the complication. If you have a location outside during golden hour, you have to deal with moving light and the change of the color of the light.
Okay.
The reason that we shot under an underpass is because it casted a shadow that was more consistent than the light hitting all the stuff that you would see in the background. The reason the alley was a better location and the one that we ultimately went back to and finished the movie in is because you couldn't see direct sunlight hitting anything. The buildings were so tall, the alley was so narrow that we had a consistent light from the alley from the beginning to the end, or at least we were able to adjust our cameras enough to where it looked the same from the beginning to the end with that location during the golden hour. Otherwise, it makes no sense at all to shoot during golden hour, except it was just a way of getting soft light. We liked the look. It made sense for the scheduling. It made sense for where we were shooting. Ybor, I think we were shooting at Ybor, and just the time of day, the date, the everything that was involved, it just made sense to shoot it there.
Okay. Yeah, because remember we got rained out a lot too.
We got rained out one day. That was the day that we went to the overpass.
Yeah.
So, It did rain on the other day that we were shooting too, but it came and it went.
Yeah, I remember that.
The wide shots where we would have seen like there was, it's all dry right now, and then like there's a puddle later. We got those shots done first. That's the reason we do wide and then we go in for coverage. Once we were in coverage, didn't matter if it rained 10 minutes before we picked up shooting again, because we're not shooting the ground. We can't see the puddles anymore or at all.
And speaking of good friends, we can actually there's a great example of crew morale. Remember that day we were supposed to shoot and one of the key actors didn't show up, and everyone was like, "All right, I think it was you or someone else like, we might as well go home." And I'm like, well, what about we shoot some of the scenes so that way?
Yeah, maybe that's kind of the example I was talking about earlier.
But, I just thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, had an actor tell us they were going to be there, kept telling us they were going to be there, and never showed up. Actually, they did show up
late,
10 minutes before the sun set, which means it didn't matter that they showed up at all. Right. That was more like a moral thing to show, hey, at least I'm here. But it was well understood. Yeah, it was. I think it was well understood by everyone on the crew, even the people who weren't shooting the cameras. Like, you were doing set photography, but you weren't doing the cinematography.
Right.
It was well understood that this time period means you are done by this time.
Right.
Because there is no light after that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is good and bad in a way, but yeah.
It's great when everyone does what they say they're going to do.
Right.
So when the actor said they're going to be late, we say, okay, get here safely as fast as you can. And they say they're going to be even more late. Okay, we're already on location. Get here safely as fast as you can. And then we don't hear anything from them, and we're there on location. And somebody's like, well, we're supposed to start shooting with this actor this time. Why don't we just call it a day? And this was the other person kind of that I was referencing. Or actually, it wasn't that other person I was referencing. But they kind of didn't have the same morale as everyone else either. That's why they suggested, why don't we just call it a day? We're like, no. We basically can shoot some stuff with you now. We're going to go ahead and do that.
And it saved time for the next day, because there's some shots you didn't have to shoot that day.
Absolutely. Dude, people are looking for breaks wherever they can get them. Regular people. But filmmakers are looking to get as much as they can get done with the time and whatever they have available. So that's why I was like, and pretty much everyone other than that person at that time was like, well, we can do this. You focus on what you can do, focus on what you should have been able to do that got messed up, and now you have to cancel the shoot. That's run and gun. If things don't go according to plan, you have to be able to adjust to plan B, C, whatever else you have after that.
And how many days did it take to finish Film Punks?
The Good Friends.
Good Friends.
Took 5 days when it was scheduled to be 3.
And that was because of the rain and there's some other complications, so I'm correct, right?
One day was because of the rain. The other day was because of the actor who didn't show up until 10 minutes before the end of the shoot.
Yeah, because I do remember that. Yeah.
So the planning was great. And I think most people would have shot that with more time than even 5 days. It would have taken longer. Like, I can see a 10-day to shoot what we did. If you're going to – so there are some people who don't shoot 3 cameras at the same time.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? And they want to get all the lighting right and all that stuff. That's the reason it can end up taking longer.
Okay.
We shoot 3 cameras at the same time at least. So that's why we're getting coverage really fast. And,
Seems better.
Yeah, it's better. It's just kind of something that we've learned over time. It makes sense. If you're gonna be doing indie filmmaking like this here, in our style, it's going to be using natural light, not really spending a lot of time with special effects and all that stuff. Then, run all the cameras at the same time. Run as many as you can. Get the shots that you're going to – why do the second shot after the first shot if you can do them both at the same time,
Save time.
Yeah, save time. Time is precious. Very precious.
So, to summarize – we talked about 3. Actually, wasn't there a topic you want to talk about? I remember you said you mentioned something you didn't want to talk about.
Actually, I brought it up as part of your thing. So,
what was it?
I was bring up, just don't try to work with regular people.
Oh.
Don't work with fucking people off the street, man.
So it works. So tied them together. Okay.
Yeah, I used to be the kind of person who would do that. Like, I would be like, because I feel like as a cinematographer, I can take anyone and make them look like an actor. I can, but I don't want to.
It's a lot of work.
I don't want to. No, it's okay if you have a very, very short project. If you only need this person for an hour or a day at most, it can work. But once you start going multiple days, like we had 3 days, it turned into 5. Once you figure out on the second day that you don't like this person or that they're not really going to be a help to the project, you know what I mean? You really don't have a choice but to go forward and finish the project because you've already started.
Right.
And just these regular fucking people, man, they just don't have the same drive, you know, and you can't give it to them. You can't give them the right mindset. You can't do anything other than...
you might be in overdrive.
Huh?
Maybe your drive is in overdrive. Maybe
no,
sometimes you need to be normal.
Oh, yeah.
His shirt says, sometimes I pretend to be normal, but it gets boring, so I go back to being me.
Exactly. That's called going to work and acting like a normal human being at work and then outside of work. And it's a tough life. It is. It's like normal people are so boring to me. It's like I go to work and I hear people talking about just normal shit. Going to the laundromat or doing normal stuff. Picking your friends up on the weekend, going to birthday party, all this normal stuff. It does not interest me. Like, as a filmmaker, I'm always thinking about, like, I have 200 stories in my head. I filmed 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, how do I get to the next thing? Like, what's the next camera that I get my hands on? What can I do in the next project? How can we start getting more projects done in a short amount of time? I'm focused on stuff like that. And then people with these normal, everyday routine stuff, you know, that's when it's pretending to be normal. When you're really not.
Do you tell people about your job, about what you do outside of your work?
No. I used to, like, as a way to, like, be sociable and whatnot, but it's like, no. It always amazes everyone. Are you into filmmaking? It's like, and then they figure out, oh, you're not just saying that. You're really into filmmaking. Like, you work with a film group. You work with Tampa Film Network. You got equipment. You don't just have a camera. You got several lenses. You got.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with them knowing that? That sounds.
No,
good.
that's when I was working with regular people because they want to be involved with shit.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. In my training, I started a new job, and in my training, in my row, 3 of us were artists. We figured that out, and it was pretty cool. Actually, they were pretty good people, but. One was a music person. Or actually, 2 of them were music. 3 of them were music people. It's just one of them played an instrument. One of them played like 7. And then the other one was like a rapper or whatever. So make the connection. As soon as you say, hey, I'm a filmmaker, the first thing, some musicians are like, well, we should do a music video. I'm like, fuck that noise. I'm not gonna. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's like the first thing you thought was like, oh, great, I can use you.
It's not necessarily that. I think people have good intentions a lot of times.
Do.
It's just people don't understand. Just because you've seen an orchestra performance doesn't mean you can write.
Orchestra.
You know, you can't write music over the weekend.
Right.
You know, you can't just come up. You can't play the piano just because you've seen somebody else do it. It just is. There's more involved with it. It's just
music videos aren't your thing, if I'm correct.
No, absolutely not. They've never been my thing. They should be, because they're like an easy introductory way to get into storytelling. It's storytelling, but the thing is, musicians want to be involved in the creative process too much.
I did notice that.
They want to be involved too much. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm open to it as long as conditions are met. And
you know, I heard a saying about that is, if you hire a plumber to fix your plumbing, do you give suggestions to him on how to fix your plumbing? No, you do not. If you
do, if you have a plunger. You're like, why don't you just? The plumber's like, look, step back.
So I think the same thing can be applied to people who do cinematography, videography, who know what they're doing. Yeah, sure, you can give a vision. You know, just like with anyone who gives a vision, you can translate that vision to reality. But after that, you know, this kind of like a hands off, maybe some suggestions here and there. But
people just got to understand their roles, man, and it's like that's kind of the hurdle that.
Are you telling people to stay in their lane?
I'm telling people to stay in their lane. I'm telling people to stay in their lane, bro. It's like, look, if you just because you're hiring somebody to do a job for you doesn't mean you're going to micromanage everything.
Correct. So that's a waste of time. You're hiring to do the job.
It is a waste of time. But you got to understand, just because something's not going to turn out the way that you envisioned it doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Right.
You know
that's
what I mean?
hard, though. People,
it's very hard. That's why I put the hurdle in front of them so that if they can clear that, then maybe we can work together. Maybe. But your ass is, you gotta be hands off. You gotta tell me what your vision is, okay? And then you gotta be okay with me telling you how I'm gonna do it.
That's tough.
So obviously, I haven't done very many music videos. I've done a couple, but not many. And that's just the way it's gonna be, because that's how it has to be. Because I'm not gonna waste my time letting you figure out that this isn't gonna work out.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. And also doing stuff like that takes a lot of time. I didn't realize it, but compared to editing pictures to video takes, there's a lot into it. And if
did you not notice that 24 frames per second is 24 pictures per second?
Yes.
And it's a motion picture.
Yes. I'm familiar with that. I'm saying when people say, because when people ask, oh man, I wish you can just edit, you can just edit these videos right quick. I don't think they realize depending on what they're asking, sometimes I've heard for every minute of video that someone wants, it could take an hour of editing and putting it all together. Of course, that's depending on what you're working on. But it's not an easy thing to do. You really have to love. That's what a lot of people say about art. You have to love it, because most people who are just kind of into it end up just quitting.
Well, some people are not artists, dude. I mean, some people just do art, but they're not really artists. They're not doing it for the sake of the art. They're doing it because they like I think Robert McKee said it best in his example and story. He said something along the lines of, he asked a question to the reader, it's like, are you in love with the art in you or yourself in the art? And it's just basically the idea of, do you really love this, or do you just like the idea of you doing this?
See what you're saying.
Most people like the idea of them doing it. Fewer people really love the art, but don't have the scruples or the drive to see it through, to actually really be an artist. And then even fewer have that and are going to be lucky enough to take it towards being successful. And then the very fewest will be great. I made that last part up myself.
Quote. I want to staple that. Okay. Well, since I think we went over everything, all the topics today. This is actually a pretty thorough podcast.
Oh, were there any current events? Let me see.
Yes, tomorrow, the editor's room.
Oh yes. And before I get to that, dude, when you brought up earlier about shooting on your camera phone, never has that been more true than recently. I saw a commercial on YouTube. And it was about people or somebody. They made a commercial about someone making a movie on their Galaxy S9, and I was like, a lot of people would not like this, because there's generation upon generation of camera equipment that people have been buying, and now your phone is your filmmaking equipment. You can shoot, edit, and create a movie on your phone now. I think that's great.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. The only reason not to do it before was because the quality wasn't good enough. Now the only reason to not do it is just not having the ability to change lenses or to adjust certain settings. But I mean, when you look at the quality that you can produce with an S9 or like an iPhone, it's actually pretty substantial. When you consider what we accepted for filmmaking quality years before, and it was very successful. Now these cameras on our phones can do that and more. So I think it's time for people to consider changing with the times and consider using their phones more, just because you can take your phones in more places. Just like when...
That's true. I agree.
Just like when DSLRs came along, and then everyone had to, start accepting the fact that DSLRs are going to take over instead of having the 3 CD camcorders and stuff.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So, phones are here now, and it's going to give you some filmmaking abilities. You should figure out your best way that you can incorporate that. And I've always wanted to make a film on nothing but a phone.
Like you can. I think if you get an S7 or above, you can, because the video quality in the S7 is pretty good too.
Dude, I was going to do it on a ZT Z-Max Pro. Actually, it's just a regular fucking phone. Wow. It's I mean, you're gonna get full HD file quality out of it, which is not great. It doesn't have great light controls or anything like that.
It's about the story.
But it's about the story, and that's kind of the thing that I was talking about. It's I wanted to make a found footage movie with a phone. You know, found footage movies have had the look, or used to have the look of videotape players, right? So if you accept the quality of that, why wouldn't you accept the quality of an HD capable camera on your phone?
Because that means a lot of camera companies lose money.
Fuck them. I'm a filmmaker. I'm not you know, if you want to sell more of your equipment, you know, our email is Tampa Film Networks with an S at the end at gmail.com.
Oh man.
We can talk business, we can talk promotion. It's not wrong with supporting the cause. But no, it's another way to do what you're trying to do. Every day we should be figuring out how to do more of what we want to do. How to do more. How to do it in less amount of time, how to do it with less resources. Your phone is a resource that you have with you all the time. So I mean, why not? You know, you got to get in the right mindset. But yeah, I think that's important, and people should be considering that more, because I'm definitely considering it.
I'll try that. Yeah, upgrading would be great. I think I might upgrade to a new phone.
What do you have right now?
S7. I saw my girlfriend has
Galaxy.
The Galaxy.
Let me see it real quick.
Yeah. Just double tap the home button and the camera will turn on.
I like the feel of the S line.
Yeah. Oh, and also has a pro mode. You can change the shutter speed, ISO, and the focus.
Can you change frame rate?
I don't. I think with the newer phones you can. I think on the Note, stuff like that, you can. Not this one though.
Galaxies have great cameras.
There is a film. I forgot what it's called, but there was a film that was filmed entirely on iPhone. Except,
I think it was called Tangerine or something.
Yeah, they used the cinema lens though. They had an attachment, and they used the attachment to the phone. Because I thought that made more sense. Rather than just doing I guess like a film like that. But I don't think it is possible. If you think about if you would.
Yeah, it's possible.
If you
all you need is a phone. With video cameras, it's possible to do it with a phone.
No, I'm saying if all you need is a simple. Maybe like a lens, the attachment to attach to the phone, and maybe just some audio equipment.
Well, that's kind of why the genre that I would do if I was going to do it with a phone would be found footage.
What's found footage? Found
footage is like, you remember Blair Witch Project?
Yes.
It's like one of the most famous found footage movies ever. Yeah. So it's like that, where you expect it to be on the device that you... Because once you see this is a video camera, and they filmed their birthday party, and this story is about what happened after they started filming. So it's like if you start on a cell phone video, okay, this is on somebody's phone, and you expect the rest of the movie to be through that. So you're in that focus now, and you're focused on what's happening in front of the camera. Then
okay, would you consider Cloverfield to be something similar?
Yes,
to that?
It is. Okay. It is. Yeah. It's a found footage movie. It doesn't have to be the actual device that someone films on. So if it's
more that cheeky, realistic feel that someone's holding the camera, like someone's living in the moment and holding the camera, rather than them as a third person recording the action.
The requirement is it just has to be from the point of view of a device that was found. So like found footage. So the camera, the people filming can't like be aware of the fact that people are going to be watching it.
Got it.
They can assume. But they can't like be aware of the fact that, hey, we're making a movie. But that would be the genre. I like the genre because I like the realistic feel of it. So if you want to go indie, I think found footage is a good indie genre.
Write that down.
It allows you to make a lot of mistakes and use a lot of footage that you normally wouldn't use. It's because it's just normal. You just hold in the camera. You may rehearse what you're going to do, but it's just really no requirement for you to like say lines or anything. You may have your key words that you got to put in because it's important to the story, but you can kind of improv your way around it. It's fun, really. I like it because it just allows you to create some things on the spot too. But yeah, man, found footage. I've been wanting to do that for a long time. I want to do one about clowns, dude.
you could do it on your own. I'm not
No lie. I have a movie idea about clowns.
Oh, no.
No, it would be good. It would be really good.
No.
Check it out, though. So check it out. You know what got me interested in this? You remember a while ago when people started seeing those scary clown sightings, footage things popping up online. So basically, people would dress up like clowns, but like the scary type.
Oh, I've seen it. Was like
and
pranks.
They would do weird shit, like
Yeah.
as a prank, right?
Yeah.
And then they would have somebody film it, or
Yeah.
they would just be out doing their thing, and then somebody would see them. It's like, that's odd. Look at what the fuck they're doing, and they would just film this clown walking around in the woods or in the gravesite or whatever. And there were some encounters where the clown would actually chase the person filming them, or like somebody would try to approach them and they would attack them or something like that. So my idea was kind of like a found footage idea about a city where it's fictional, but, and I don't know if I should be talking about this, but you know what? The whole spirit of Tampa Film Network is, we share the ideas freely. So
how about you give just a premise?
Yeah, here's the
giving
premise.
Too much
Yeah.
giving the detail of the story.
Yeah, but here's the premise of it.
Okay,
So
yeah.
basically, my premise would be about a student filmmaker who is trying to create a project, and basically he goes to a city that is known for people really taking the clown culture seriously. And it's like a city where you can go to, and there's like a lot of people like dressed up as clowns, like just as part of their day. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So now it's not like a society of clowns or
That's what
anything.
it sounds like.
It's not like that. It's normal life. But like, what if you saw like just one clown walking down the street right now?
I would run away.
No, just a regular clown.
I know, run away.
No, not so. In the city, they're not all scary clowns, right? Some of them are just like they'll like give balloons to kids.
TJ. You do not. There is. I forgot what's called. There is actually a phobia where people are afraid of clowns.
Corporaphobia.
Yeah. There you go. I remember. I knew a girl.
I think that's the word.
I knew a girl. She was the singer at the church at the school I went to. She was the pastor's daughter. She was scared of clowns. I thought she was just saying that because most people just say that.
Right.
But then one day I think we were walking. I think some clowns came for the kids, something like that.
Freaked the fuck out?
Yeah, she did. I was like, oh, because she wasn't lying.
No.
She said, no, I got to get out of here. No. And people were trying to call her. I was like, nope, I'm out. And then she left.
Yeah, phobias are weird. But let me finish what I was saying, though. So basically, the premise behind my story would be, so it starts off, he figures out what he wants his project to be. So he goes to the city where they have the most people who do that, right? And so it's like a documentary type thing. So he found someone to kind of work with him to tell him about the local culture and stuff like that. So these people who clown, it's called clowning when you do it.
Oh,
right?
Clowning.
And it's like, it's interesting because there are different kind of clowns. There are some who like walk around with balloons or whatever. There's some who, like there's one character that I envisioned that is like runs through the forest or whatever, right?
This sounds creepy.
No, check it out. There's one that runs through the forest, and
Okay.
and it's like he went with his clown friend or whatever, and he was recording. And it's like, well, she doesn't talk, but if you catch up with her, you get like a piece of chocolate.
Oh my
right?
God! You're saying this is creepy. This is it's slowly. I can't.
No, that's not the creepy part. Yeah,
So this is a creepy movie.
No, there is it turns into one.
Oh my!
But
God.
that's not creepy. That's not creepy. It's actually a tender moment in the film.
A tender moment.
Yeah, it's actually a very
That's how you
endearing
describe
moment.
it.
It's a very endearing moment.
You're freaking me out. I haven't even seen a commercial for it yet.
No, but check it out though. So it's like, so in the beginning of the film, you start to realize some people like take the hobby like seriously, like they like doing it, and it's like they're normal people, right? But what you find out is there's also these people who, the guy discovers like there are some people who actually are not doing it as like a recreational exercise, but as like a religious sentiment, right? So it's like, so basically what happens is there's this violence breaks out with one event or whatever, where this clown kills somebody, and then they realize like there have been more than one death, and it's like related to the same thing, and it's like he's trying to figure out like, so he figures out there's like a actual secret society of clown people, right? But they're different from all the others. These people are like believe in like a demon clown, like Satan type shit, right? And it's like, so he wants to, like, he really gets into this project where he's like, I got to find out more about this shit. Like, do you know anyone who's in that? It's like, I don't know anyone's in it. That's actually like a rumor or whatever. But then he finds evidence, and then he gets his clown friend to try to like get more info, and it like he basically gets pulled into like this murder plot or whatever. And so there are these murdering clowns who go after him and his little crew that he put together the film, and it's like that's what the movie turns out to be. It turns into like a thriller horror type thing.
TJ,
it's awesome though. Tell me that's not awesome.
TJ, what is the phobia for clowns again? What do you call it?
I think it's called corporaphobia.
Cropophobia. You have made every corporophobia's nightmare.
Alexa, what is the fear of clowns?
Clowns' fear is coulrophobia.
Chlorophobia.
If you create that movie, every person with chlorophobia.
It's spelled COULROPHOBIA.
Or is scared of clowns in any way.
Chlorophobia.
Will faint and pass out at the thought of you even making this movie.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
I'm definitely gonna do it too, because it's kind of easy to make. You basically, the hardest thing would be like getting the different types of makeups for different types of clowns and stuff. But it's so interesting. I've always been interested in like mysteries and like just mystery types of thing, because it turns into kind of like an investigation to figure out if this secret clown society actually exists. So it's like they had to figure out, like, some clowns knew the code word and some didn't.
You might as well just write the screenplay for this already if you have this idea.
I already started, dude.
Oh,
but I'm
did?
like, yeah, it's like I already have the whole thing, like, the broad strokes mapped out in my head. But it's like I didn't have time to actually write the screenplay. You know, most of screenwriting is not just writing the screenplay. It's creating the story. It's story design.
I say go ahead and start on it. I'm interested a little bit. I would interested in creating it. I'm not gonna watch it though.
Dude, you could be the dude who's the filmmaker, like trying to like film clowns. And dude, like, it starts out with a birthday party. It starts out with a regular clown. It's like you figure out like there's more of these people.
What was that movie where the family was switching?
By the way, is that still on?
Yeah,
still moving.
Still
Okay.
moving. What was that movie where the guy had a girlfriend? She was white, and they went to their parents' house, and what they would do is they'd swap the brains out.
Oh shit! I never actually saw the movie, but I know what you're talking about. You're talking about it was called "Don't Run," like something like "Don't Get Out." Get out. Yeah,
it sounds a lot like Get Out, because the guy was a photographer.
It was Jordan Peele, right?
Yeah,
or somebody, one of those two.
It was the guy who played in Black Panther. He was in the Blue Cape.
Well, he was the guy from Peele and Key and Peele. He was one of those two.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
So, but
he was the director. Oh, you're talking about the actor.
Yeah, the actor.
Oh, okay.
It's starting to sound like how.
Was that him?
No, I don't think so. Do you watch Black Panther? Did you watch it?
I did see Black Panther.
Remember the guy in the blue?
No. I do know you're talking about.
Yeah,
I knew you're talking about.
I don't know his name, the actor's name, but it was that guy. He was the main character. He was a photographer.
Also, he was more interesting than the main character too.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I don't have a very high opinion of Black Panther. Yeah, it was really cool and visual and all that stuff like that, but the main character was boring as fuck. Never ever write a fucking passive protagonist. Always make him active, doing shit instead of reacting to shit all the time.
He shouted with passion towards his fathers.
Fuck.
They made the wrong. He made the wrong right.
That should have made him like the ultimate avenger of fucking wanting to get. He should have made him like the Black Batman. Is what it should have did.
Oh my god.
Dude, Batman has the greatest motivation to punish criminals.
His parents got shot to death in front of him.
Yeah, and now every criminal he's trying to go after is like a struggle with justice. That should have made him a way more interesting character.
They said, you're right. Yeah, because looking back, every superhero had a main motivator. Spider-Man he originally used his powers to try to get some money in a wrestling ring, and then Uncle Ben got shot, and he was like, all right, maybe I should change my life. Flash, I think it was just a science experiment. Superman, well, all his kind died, so. And I think Batman had the best, one of the best stories. He also has great villains too. That he fights against. For someone who has barely any powers and villains the same way, it's
he's the most human out of all the superheroes.
He is.
He just happens to be like a genius, and his power is his money and his deductive reasoning skills.
All right.
He's one of my favorite superheroes.
Yeah. Well, you do know, Batman is who he is, and Bruce Wayne is the
public persona.
Yeah, the public persona. That's not him. And I didn't think, someone told me that, and I at first thought, I was like, that's stupid. But then I thought about it. I was like, wait a second. Majority, when he was talking to Alfred versus when he's out in public as a billionaire, we're completely two different people. Yeah. And I didn't realize. I thought back. It's like, oh right, because the real person, the person is, of course, he's going to talk to Alfred for who he is, and the way he spoke to him, when he interacted with him, versus the way he interacted with the public and all the other wealthy people, were this is two separate people altogether.
Well, that was obvious though.
Well, but I didn't think about it. This is something that was blatantly there.
Why he did it though? It's the most obvious reason. He just wants to throw people in that direction. Yeah. Instead of this one, if ever anyone could start to become wise about it.
I think Christian Bale did a good job of that. When he was
I think
he pulled the girls, and then
I think he played a good Batman. The only thing that I wish were more apparent were his deductive prowess, like him being a detective. Oh. Because it was more about his technology and what he was able to do with his money, which was cool, and it was more about his sense of justice. So that shined through it. So the world's greatest detective, as Batman is known, that wasn't really apparent in any of the newer Batman movies, and that's a quality that I like, and I still enjoyed it without that, just because the second movie was so good. The Joker was so great, so great of an enemy.
Actor died, but it was. Because he caused people to question their belief systems, and it was insane. I don't know. I still can't wrap my mind around some of the stuff he said. Because some of it was true, and I'm like, whatever it was a really good character.
It was, it wasn't like your cartoon baddie. No. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, well, he's just a bad guy. He was the same as Batman, just turned out differently. He was the same as Batman. He had his own desires. He had something that he was trying to achieve. I think it was justice, the same way Batman was also trying to achieve justice. He had a different way about going about it.
That's true.
But he recognized more than anyone else that Batman and him were pretty much one and the same. That's why he was saying, you're not like them, you're like me. That's why he kept saying that to him. And he was just great because you could empathize with the Joker on some level. You can empathize with him because he was human. It was hard unless you're really sophisticated, really though, and you could figure out like, okay, well, he's not afraid of force. He's been bullied, or you're basically assuming a lot of things. Like you can assume he came from money and that's why he didn't care about it and stuff like that. But you can empathize with him on a human level because of some of the things he was saying about society.
Yeah, he did say a lot of.
Were some of the same cynical thoughts that we've had, and it was just a great character because it was just so good.
I remember in one scene, the police officer, I think his family was involved or something about, and they captured the hospital, and I think he tried to kill that person.
Berg.
Trying to show that, I guess human morality only goes so far as far as the arm's length. If you're involved, then you can quickly change because we all kind of go based off our own personal interests.
He was talking about the morality of the police and like they're only as good as the world allows them to be and things like that. So he was right about when he was talking about human nature. There were some truths that he was saying that people's discretion. Like, why is it a villain saying some of these things? And it created a really interesting effect because people really liked the Joker. He was a challenge. He was a real challenge, and the modern setting of it just showed
it made it real.
It made it feel like, hey, if this were going to happen, this is how it would happen, and this is the type of person it would take to make things like this happen. And like, wow, like that was such a great portrayal. You know who else I think would make a good follow-up Joker?
Well.
Jim Carrey.
You know what? He did play Question in the
Riddler.
Yeah, he played the Riddler. Yeah, he played the Riddler, which I liked his character.
I liked it.
Yeah, he was.
That's when George
Clooney?
George Clooney was
Clooney's
Batman.
It was a little, yeah,
I like his Batman too.
It was okay.
Playboy,
Right.
older guy, kind of Batman. But he was good as that. But I've always thought like he could be a good dramatic Joker. He's been doing dramatic roles recently. Yeah. I think he could do a pretty good job as long as he doesn't try to be the same. But the thing is though,
I mean, it's a certain level. I mean,
Heath Ledger is gone. He's gone.
It's a legend now.
The only thing that you can do is change the Joker character.
Let's see, try to do on Suicide Squad. I think a little bit.
No, that was a different interpretation of the Joker. What I'm saying is you take the same Joker that Heath Ledger played and give him a reason to be different, like change him up somehow. It could be because of years of imprisonment or some kind of abuse or something like that. He would come out a bit different, and so you could recognize some qualities from the new Joker that you saw.
The Joker always changes.
Well, the Joker always changes, but there's no reason you can't continue with the Dark Knight series.
That's true, but that's long gone, man.
I don't think so. Yeah, they pass it up with the story, but I feel like that you could have more villains. Bane, good attempt, but the storyline.
I didn't like how he died. So quick.
The whole guy, it didn't make any sense. The whole storytelling thing, it was kind of formulaic. It was almost like it had to end at a certain time on the running time clock. So they had to have certain events done. It just didn't. It wasn't nearly as good as the second one, as the Dark Knight. This was just a follow up to the successful part of the Batman series was the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is the best Batman we've ever seen. The Dark Knight Rises, second best Batman we've ever seen. Kinda. You can make arguments for other ones, but now, like, where do you go from that? I think the Dark Knight series could use a third one, but not if you're going to do pretty much the same quality that you did in the third. There's really the second. There's really no point in doing a second Dark Knight 2. They're all chasing to be the first, trying to be the first again. You know, it's just. I liked Anne Hathaway in that one though.
Her character, I think it was a good. It was a good support character. I liked a little bit what she did.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, but I agree. But hey, is there any other news or anything before we wrap up?
I was just about to get into the. So what's happening tomorrow for our viewers who, if you are watching, is at 3. Let me see, 2 to 3:15 is going to be the screenwriters meeting. It's called the Writers Room. So if you're in, or actually it's the seminar for the Writers Room. So if you want to be a part of Tampa Film Network's writing, you go to the seminar, and it's kind of an introductory. It tells you how it all works, you know, what the system is like, and you know, you can jump right in and help start creating stuff. The second thing that's happening is the Editors Room is having its own seminar too. And same purpose, it introduces you to how the Editors Room works, and it's all Tampa Film Network projects. You're not coming there to learn skills to not work on Tampa Film Network, so come there if you want to be a part of Tampa Film Network's short films. So it's the writing group first from 2 to 3:15, and then its editing group is second from 3:15 till 4:45, and that's for editing only. So those of you who are trying to figure out what you want to contribute, if you want to do writing or editing, either one is fine. Don't expect to do both, because first we got to make sure that people are productive in their first program or their first contribution before I say that you can do 2 at a time, or anyone says that you can do 2 at a time. So figure out what you want to do and stick to that. And if you're productive in that one thing and you want to do even more, that's fine. But don't expect to, you know, hop from program to program if you're not really benefiting it, or if we're not benefiting it. So it's just not going to be a good fit if it's not a good fit. But yeah, those are that. And then for acting class, I think next weekend we may have a class. I'll see who's available for that. So we'll see. And then beyond that, not sure. By the end of the year, we're hoping to have Good Friends edited, hopefully. So that's one of the main things that the editors are going to be working on is finishing up Good Friends. And they're also working on the small skits that the acting class have been doing. If you have any questions, email Tampa Film Network with an S at the end. So Tampa Film Networks @gmail.com. We have a website, tampafilmnetwork.org. You can go on there and find out any news related to Tampa Film Network. The programs are on there. The podcast is on there. Anytime we film something, we have set photography, it's going to be on there. You can go in and get caught up. You can also contact us on there too. And if you want to submit any locations, just go to tampafilmnetwork.org, go to submissions. You can submit a location. You can also submit scripts to us, and we'll sit down. We'll talk about any scripts that people have. And then locations, you can just upload photos. We add it to our community library. And I think that's all I have for announcements for Tampa Film Network.
All right. We are out. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And next week we'll have more interesting topics to talk about as well.
We'll be on next week. If anyone wants to come on
next time.
We'll see. We'll see if we can do next week. But if anyone wants to come on the podcast, reach out to us on email, tampafilmnetwork.org or tampafilmnetworks@gmail.com. Let us know if you're an actor, director, camera person, or anyone who wants to come on. Just talk about film-related things, local or otherwise. Just feel free to contact us, reach out, and thanks so much for listening to Tampa Film Network or Tampa Film Podcast by Tampa Film Network. I'm TJ.
Out.